Philip Board, One-on-One Financial here, along with
Mia
Medina, yeah. And special guest, Mark Rogers of Producers Prospect, somebody I've known for quite a while. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I've been excited to be on the Mia show. I didn't know you were joining us.
Yeah, I apologize. I should have warned you that I'd be coming.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And we couldn't come on a better time here with our book launch together.
Yep.
Super excited about that. It's actually taken off. It's already an Amazon best-selling book, which is really exciting.
It is.
And it's filled with professionals from across the country, but most importantly, you. So I'm excited to just be a part of that journey with you and been getting a ton of great feedback about it. So hopefully we'll be able to talk about the book a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds, no, not to take any credit, Mark is also an author in the same book. It's a compilation of financial professionals that have come together to basically build this book. It's almost like chicken soup for the soul for finance. That's how I've described it. Would you say that's a fair?
100%.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is we all have different perspectives, like anybody writing a book about a historical time frame or anything else. Financial services is really a lot like that, right? Because all of us have kind of different backgrounds, different philosophies. And when you take advisors, one that's had 40 years in the business, maybe one that's only had 20 years in the business, and so on, we all come with different perspectives, things that we want to talk about, and different parts of the United States, right? You got advisors kind of dotting the map in this book. So I think it's an easy read, which is nice, because sometimes you get into these financial how-to books and they absolutely just, you lose it. And it's written from the perspective of what's going on today. And with all the challenges, headwinds, risks, and lots of potential, I think that this is an easy read that you can sit down and really get so many different nuggets from different perspectives. So that's why I'm excited about it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And when you think about how, I was talking to somebody about AI not too long ago, and a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs. And what came out of it was that we are pretty much irreplaceable. And because AI can't, at this point anyway, take each individual's life and say, what is the best plan forward for them, right? Because even though you're in financial services, so am I, so is Mia, we've all led different lives. And when you start factoring in all the other components to doing a financial plan, like, well, how much Social Security are you going to have, right? Mm-hmm. How do you live? Like, I like nice things. Other people are like, you know what? No, I'd be happy to live in sweats my entire life. My budget for clothing a year will be $100. And I'm like, mine might be a little more, is what I'm saying. So everybody's unique. And that's why this book is great, that you can read it and get all these different perspectives from all these different advisors, because not every advisor is a great fit for every client.
That's right.
Right. You've got to have a similar viewpoint. And I know in my chapter, we were talking before we went live that I talked about there was essentially 4 different mindsets in money. And since the publishing of this book, because I'm talking to more and more people all the time, what I'm finding is there are more. And I found a 5th one. And we were talking about that just before we went live on the show. And so you've got your survivors, then you've got your spenders, your savers, growers. Well, this 5th one is someone I'm calling a builder. And those people are your serial entrepreneurs, and they're a pretty unique group, because even though they understand when it comes to investing, they've got that growth mindset, they've got this extra add-on where they're like, you know what? Yeah, I know I can put my money with you and make it, but I can put it over here, build this company. I know it's risky, but I can do more with that. So it's interesting. The book is actually expanding my own knowledge.
Yeah, it sounds like you got book number 2 already written. We just need to grab that. So, and Mia, maybe you want to talk about this too with it. You have kind of those personality, those investor types, right? And as you have people walk through the door, how do you help somebody know whether they're a grower or a spender or a saver? Like, is there a process in which when somebody comes to work with you that you all go through to really identify that?
Well, we definitely sit down and get to know the client, right? And a lot of the times they already know. They'll tell you straight off the bat, I'm a saver. I don't like risk. Some might come out just saying, like, I know the market comes up and down. But what's interesting to see is when spouses come in and you have both of them in different stages. And sometimes we wonder whether they even know it themselves, that they realize it. They try to make certain goals and opportunities for themselves. But then when you start talking to them, you realize they might have a conversation. We might have just opened a can of worms, and they might have a conversation when they get home to make sure that they're going to be on the same page. So I definitely see that like coming into place when we meet with people. But yeah, I mean, it depends. Everyone's in different stages.
Sure.
And I think like different ages too. The younger might see things a little bit different. Like it might start right at the beginning, just depending on their level of how they acquire funds and at the stage in their career as well.
Well, I think it was Ferdinand Porsche that said, I couldn't find the sports car of my dreams, so I built it myself, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what you all have done, and what I think makes your firm truly unique and different versus walking into the bank or going to a massive wirehouse that we all know. I think that you are building sports cars of people's custom sports cars for their retirement, right? Not one size fits all, and being able to help people understand the type of mindset they're in really then allows you to connect with them, right? It allows you to truly understand how they think about money, how they think about their retirement, about that one thing that they're, super passionate about, that they've been working so hard for, that you can then come back and have that focus and then build it out for them. I think that's it's a cool process.
It is. And, it's interesting. You said, is there a process for that? And I thought to myself, no. But there is.
You do it without even...
It's a behavioral process, I think. It's like the emotional aspect that comes with it, the knowledge that they're kind of going through it. And then once the one thing is the planning that we do. But I think seeing them, just understanding at what point of their life they're in with their assets. And I think the best part is when they realize, oh, I can retire. And in their mind, they had no idea.
Right. We actually had a client. He said, I'm going to work for a really long time. My job's okay. My manager's okay, blah, 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 blah. And we did a plan for him. And I'm like, oh, you do realize you're going to work because you choose to. He actually wept in front of me because he never thought he would be able to cry. I mean, to retire, not cry.
Most of us don't know if we can cry. That's what Stacy says to me all the time.
Your wife, yeah. But I realized that as you made me think about this in what you said and your question, and there's a little bit of a joke in the office. It's like Philip will be in that meeting for an hour and a half. They'll be chewing the fat for an hour and 15 minutes. And then there's 15 minutes of work. And I thought, well, it's because I'm verbose, right? But no, that is the process. It's getting to understand. We're talking and having them open up to us about things. Do they like to travel? Do they want to own an RV? Do they, so whatever it is, we're talking about different things that are really important to them that ultimately come into play. We do some data gathering. And then when we come back and say, all right, now you've got this plan and I've actually allocated money to your dream that they never said was something they wanted, but I got out of them, right? So I'm realizing that those conversations, even though
the beginning of building that relationship.
It is, and helping me understand that
too. I gotta say too that I almost want to take a time out and let's grab this snippet right here, because that's a massive nugget. And the nugget is you start with really understanding how people feel and care and think. And the old adage, you can't help somebody until they know how much you care, right?
Right.
And that's where you start. It's a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. And I think too often, we as advisors and in this world, we spend so much time on how. Okay, here's how to invest. Here's how to buy stocks. Here's how to do a Roth conversion. And we don't spend enough time of why. Yet, tremendous amount of social science teaches us that people, one of the number one things that we're motivated, why do we do what we do, is through purpose. If we have a purpose and an understanding of that purpose, that's why we do what we do. And so that goes back to you've been doing a process, and it's so funny that you say, oh my gosh, we don't maybe not have a process. The reality is, I know how structured the company is, and you help other financial professionals across the country. I've seen you on stage talk about systems and processes. What I love about what you do is that you're constantly innovating, you're constantly looking for ways to build a better experience for investors. That's not your peers. As I travel through the country, and you know I'm on a plane every single week.
You are.
New York last week, LA this week, like that's what I do. I live in seeing other advisors and how they build their business. It's really, really hard to get an advisor to constantly trying to improve customer experience and investor experience. And you are not short of ever saying, like, let's try it, let's implement it, and then building the team around. Like the experience of just walking in and all the team is right there, like down to the strategic of how your office is laid out for somebody. Like you can't help but walk in and all of a sudden you feel like you're part of the family. Everybody's communicating together. There's no walls where people are kind of around corners that you're looking around and who's working today or who's not. It's we're all in it together as a family. Like, see us.
Yeah.
Here we are. It's those little things that just like makes a difference and matter. So
Well, that's a huge compliment
Yeah.
coming from you, because you work with a lot of advisors throughout the country, and you've spoken on a lot of stages. So thank you. That's a
course.
huge honor. But I've got to give full credit though. The systems and the process are 100% Mia.
Well, Mia, I already knew that. Like, you got to build them up. But Mia,
No. I'm perfectly. Let me deflect. That is all her.
Mia, tell me just from what makes your office different, you think, than others?
You know what? I had a hard time before. I would say I had a hard time answering that, just because I've been working with Philip for 20 years, and that's all I know.
You
So
started at 11 years old, or what's
A couple years older, but yeah.
I was in high
She
school
was
already.
part-time in high school.
serious?
Seriously,
That's
true
awesome.
story.
So, to answer your question, I guess what's interesting is when we talk to other clients, right? Or actually when we bring in other like assistants too, and I get to tell them what we do, how we run the business, and realizing that we are different. You know, we look at their entire, like you said, their entire plan that we go into and talking about, you know, what they like. We try to be care about what they do. But I think what's most important is that we have the systems that allow us to, after Philip meets with the client and does what he needs to do, that the client knows they're going to be taken care of, and they don't have to rely just on Philip to answer basic questions that someone else could help. They're going to get the immediate answer that they need if they just call us and talk to anyone in the office.
You make me think. You do. Thank you for that.
Think
two
about.
two things. One is we were talking to one of the assistants. We oversee another rep out in Texas, and he has an assistant. And we were going through compliance voicemails, right? We had to make sure her voicemail was compliant. And she said, well, nobody calls me. They all call for the advisor. And she pointed out, that's a problem. Because if he's getting every call, that's not productive.
Right.
Somebody calling me and asking for a beneficiary update, an address change, or a check request, I don't even know how to do it anymore. Don't get me wrong, I used to do it, but I haven't done it in so long. It's wasted resource.
Sure.
The other side of that is, so clients are taken care of by these people, but we're attracting amazing talent now. The people that work for us is something that, you know, most advisors out there and even the clients don't think to themselves, oh, I want to make sure that they've got really good employees. They look to the advisor, right? So we have to be good. But I think not more importantly, equally as important, right, are the people that are surrounding the advisor. So like our latest team member, she's come with a couple years of experience from another advisor, and she actually comes to work early. She's smiling. She's all, I love working here because there's all these systems and processes, and I know what I have to do. I don't have to bug somebody every time I want to do something. And so it's dawning on me. So any advisors listening out there, if you don't have systems and processes, you're not going to be able to attract the talent that you want to really be successful. That's my point.
But I think to add to that, it's not just the systems and processes, and I think we learned this about probably a few years now. It's the culture that we bring in, right, to the team. It's that, they have a relationship with the Philip or the advisors in the office, but the staff members, they take time to get to know the client too. They have conversations sometimes when they're just, calling a client to follow up on something, and they have input about, each other's lives. They just, it's interesting because in a way it creates like a mini friendship with the client as well. They call in and they know who they're talking to rather than just calling some call center that they're just going to, take your information and your request and then move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's relationship is the number one build, right? You can't put into place if you don't have relationship, you don't have a business, right? And so that's, I think, I just keep saying, if there's other advisors listening to this, get out a pen and start making notes on this podcast because that's how it should be, And I like, one of my sayings is things don't just happen. I can't tell you how many times I've been flying probably from another city, doing another seminar in other cities. I fly in, I come say hi at the office, and then I show up at the restaurant or the location that we're doing, and you all have the room perfect, the temperature of the room, the materials, everything's organized and laid out. Like, it's refreshing for me as somebody as trying to help and support your business that I know when I walk in that it's just dialed. There are other, and you'll have to forgive me on the other end of this if you're listening and I may be picking on you for a second, but it's chaos, right? And there's times where I'm like helping put together packets and writing names and helping and that kind of stuff just to make sure it's ran correctly that night. Those things don't just happen. There's purpose and process, and it's meaningful purpose, which I think is what ultimately makes people feel comfortable and confident in a company like yours and want to do business. They get excited about working with Philip, but at the end of the day, they're really working with you and your team and the culture that's happening there. That's what people get excited about, and people want to have relationships. I go through massive amounts of research. I geek out on this kind of stuff, and I follow Oxley Institute. Oxley Institute has been doing financial surveys of investors for almost 40 years. And Matt Oxley is one of the top coaches for financial advisors in the country. So I've shared the stage with him. I follow his stuff religiously. And he talks about if your practice isn't getting favorable introductions, referrals from others, you got to look at your process and your system and really take a look at it because people want to have a personal relationship with their advisor. People are more apt to refer you to their friends and family and other people if they have a personal relationship with you. And what's interesting is when surveyed, like 67% of investors say that they have a personal relationship with their advisor. Yet when you ask the advisor, do you have a personal relationship with your client? It's like 87, 90%. Oh yeah, I've got a great relationship. That's not necessarily really how your investors want to, but don't feel like that is. So if you're kind of creating that culture, that difference maker, that why, here's why we're all working in this together and creating an experience, that's when you get those introductions, which is really what foundationally you want your business to look like.
It is. And I have a confession time. You hear this? So it dawned on me that I had a really, really hard time asking for referrals. And somebody pointed out, that flat out said it. They said, because you don't have the confidence in your team. And I went, you're right. Or the confidence that we'll be able to take care of them the way I wanted to take care of them. And so this was a few years ago. And which is why we've gone to build this culture. And now I have no problem asking for referrals because I know we've got the systems, the process, the team in place to really do it. So I actually haven't said that out loud in front of anybody. And since that epiphany moment, but it was something that I'm like, oh yeah, I'll ask for referrals. Sure, I will. And now I do, because I know we'll be able to take care of them. And the ability of and level of our planning, I don't care where they are in their life, whether they're starting out or whether they are multimillionaire with a tax problem that they're looking to resolve, we can handle them. Whereas before I was afraid I didn't know the answer. But
let's just lean into that for a second, that comment, because maybe our listeners, this is the first time they're coming on to financial fitness and they're understanding. They may not know enough about your practice. And I think it's worth the 30 seconds as we wrap up our call or our time together is lay out the different key initiatives or how your business is laid out for people so that they understand, because you got a unique different team members, different parts of the business that all collectively work together, which creates this experience that we've been talking about. And I think our listeners, if they're listening to this one, are like, okay, what is that? So I think it's fair to kind of wrap back around and say, okay, what does the firm do? What are the different pockets of the business? And what does that look like?
Dang, Mark. Didn't realize I'd be in the hot seat today. So essentially, whoever calls in, there's some sort of a fact-finding process that always occurs. And whether it's myself, Mia, or one of the other advisors, that occurs. And the development of a relationship. Once we determine, not everybody's suitable for me. I mean, my current role used to be just financial advisor, but now I'm president and CEO and financial advisor. So not everyone is suitable to come to me with my level of experience, because you don't need my level of tax planning when you're first starting out. But we have somebody on the staff that is where you are. I did a podcast for another group the other day, and somebody was asking questions. I've got a 2-year-old. What am I going to do? Well, I've got a 14 and 15 now, and 12-year-old. And I said, you know what though? Kurt in our office has got a 2-year-old. You need to talk to him because he's doing it. If he's doing it for him, he can do it for you. And that's the other thing that I think Mia's hearing me quite often, is that this is what I'm doing with my money. I put my money here. I'm investing this, and this is how it saved me tax. I'm doing this, and this is how, I've experienced, what I've done with my own money. So, I think having a multi-layered team with different experience, we have men, we have women, different ages.
When most people think about financial planning or wealth management, they're either used to the person that they work with, I've had that person for 30 years. How could I possibly make a move? And one of the things that's always impressed me from your standpoint is the fact that, you don't just help one thing. This isn't a come and let me buy all of your stocks and bonds.
Oh, no.
It's far greater than that.
Oh, yeah.
Because the bigger approach is how many skiing trips a year? Or where do you want to, that whole, all the activities, all the goals, all the things are wrapped into that process. How did you get to that?
Great question. You know what I think it is that I've never not attended a conference. I mean, if there's a conference, I go. And I remember sitting at this one, and one of the advisors is like, oh, nothing I haven't heard before. Right after the number one producer in the company came and sat next to me, and this other guy came up and talking, and he's looking at me, he's going, this stuff is great. And we're pounding away taking notes. And this other guy is like, and so because you might not be ready to use the information that you gather that day, but you picked it up and you're like, wait a minute, who was that? And now it comes to you because you've got somebody sitting in front of you that you can now utilize that too. So I think having that I'm a grower mentality myself now leads to, what we do for our clients. So what do we do for our clients? We don't just manage the money. Anyone can manage the money. What you want to look at is, so Mia's integral in this is that we get everybody's tax return, and we've got software. We put their tax return in, we duplicate it, and then we start saying, what if we did this? How's it going to change their taxes? What if we did that? I would say very little of our conversations with our clients are about the returns they can expect. I don't spend a lot of time with that. The alphas, the betas, the risk profile. It's like, look, if we can reduce your risk tax-wise and give you a little bit more risk over here, the net balance is you've got more money in your pocket. So
Which we all want.
Which we all want, right?
Yeah.
I have an expression, and that is that I spend it better than they do, meaning the government.
Right.
If you feel differently, we're probably not a good match. So I'll just put that out there. If you think they spend it better, I'm sure there's somebody out there for
Good
you.
luck
But
to you.
you are not my people.
I think that's that kind of ties into the question you asked about how we're different, and that is that we are looking at long-term planning.
Yeah.
And I think it's like when sometimes clients don't expect to hear that either.
No.
Right? They're expecting to just do a quick, like, what should I invest? What do you think I should do? And then when we give them this plan that might take several years, we start cutting. And I think that's what we're doing way better now at, like, letting them know from the beginning, like, if you come working with us, this is what we're doing. It's going to be a long-term planning, not just one time and then open up an account and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, your podcast, Financial Fitness. When I think of fitness, I think that's not a one-time thing.
No.
Consistency, right?
Discipline.
It's consistency. It's like, you always think about the beginning of the year, gazillion people in the gym, for the
Right.
first couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden by the third month, it
Crickets.
started to thin out. But that's really what this is, right? It's the evolution. It's the consistency. It's the continue to work on and different phases, because your fitness plan is going to look differently when you're in your 20s versus your 40s versus your 60s. And then rightfully so, you should have that trainer that understands you in that phase of life to continue taking you through that and working that part of it. So I commend you that you guys are doing the right thing and that you're doing an awesome job. So I appreciate you all having me on, and hopefully you'll have me back. I don't know.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you
right.
back, Mark. So thanks for making the trip out. I know you got to hop on a plane to get here. So it's great to see you in person versus in Zoom.
Yes.
But thank you. So Mark Rogers, Producers Prospect. Good person to know. And if you come across the book, and go ahead, pitch the book one time for us.
Modern Retirement Thought Leaders. I mean,
On Amazon.
pick it up on Amazon, or you can call certainly into your office and get access to it.
We'll
And
get you a copy. So terrific. Well, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time on Financial Fitness. Hope you found today's content interesting. By all means, like and subscribe. You can also listen to us on all the popular streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it. We're on all of them. Look forward to hearing you there too. Thank you.